The wrongs we must right. The fights we must win. The future we must secure together for our nation. This is what's in front of us. This determines what's next for all of us. We are Marines. We were made for this.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss along with Paulie Howard, live downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Very busy show lined up today. Guests on the program, David Purdom from ESPN. Betting scandals galore across the country. That's in 30 minutes. Steve Wiss, Best Bets in Soccer. Ed Barkowitz as well, who was a longtime Philadelphia sports writer, transitioned into teaching a sports betting class at Rowan University, going to be in studio. A lot to talk about with him at that point. We'll have top-bottom today, meaning the best and the worst teams, ATS and with totals in college basketball and the NBA. First pick overall in the NFL draft odds. Bizarre movement after what happened last night, but now it kind of corrected itself earlier today. And Paulie, I think we need to start a little bit here on the program because last night in college basketball, the finishes to some of those games, like simultaneously, the late games, it was an adrenaline rush, man. I had Arkansas money line at the same time, Oklahoma +3. And for most of that second half, certainly in the Arkansas game, it was going to be a no-doubter, right? A rocking chair on both of them. Then it just completely got haywire. And within the span of like seconds, I thought I was going to lose both of them. Mm-hmm. And Texas probably, how did Texas not cover 4.5?
Yeah.
Oh, mama, does that suck?
That got crazy. It was fantastic with the finish, Kentucky with the kiss. And then they get the block late to hang on, and a tough loss for Oklahoma. And at around the same time, you had St. John's hanging on to beat Butler, as well as that game was nip and tuck, and also coming down to the wire with the number.
Right.
Where there was 7 and down to 5.5 in the landing spot there. So it was a great night of action. You had some upsets again, what Vandy was able to do. And then and Boise takes out Utah State, no problem.
Yeah. You're all over the Mountain West here this week. I will say, in the early slate of games last night, the shot by Gillespie for Maryland is one of many reasons why I could never coach college basketball. And going back to like my high school days when I played, I also coached like some kids who were two years below me in a 3-on-3 tournament, and we had practices leading up to this thing. There were, hundreds of teams participating from all over the region, and we were doing the old Princeton, the cuts, the back screens, trying to get open layups in practice, like it was working in theory, and they listened to me. The game started, playing at 21, completely out the window. I called a timeout like 2 points in. I'm like, guys, what am I watching? This isn't anything that we practice. This is all crap. The same thing continued. They were getting buried. I took another timeout when they were down like 10-2, and they still never listened. And I sat on the chair the rest of the game. Go ahead, do whatever you want. And at that point, I'm like, what is happening here? But later on then, watching these teams like around 2010, I think, 2011 in college basketball is where it really got bad. Always down by 2. Players across the land would settle for a stupid 3-point shot with a guy in their face. Like, what are you doing? You don't need that shot. It's idiotic.
Yeah.
And there's no way the coach would draw that up.
That's a great point by you, because when I know we asked Lon Kruger that very question, who was awesome out of timeouts and great with X's and O's, about why all of a sudden would it be a clogged toilet offense, or the kid would seemingly go, because there's no way you're drawing that up. You're right. Why would the kid go rogue? And the kid would go rogue. Or something would happen, just I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to shoot a 3, even though we're down, or even sometimes only down 1.
15 dribbles. I'm taking this shot.
And a contested jumper instead of driving when you can get a call and rush the rack.
It's such low IQ basketball. Why did Gillespie take the shot with 5 seconds on the clock?
Yeah, it's right in front of him.
Why?
I don't know.
You can't. You have a clear path if you can get by that defender. And he was much better last night, by the way, shooting free throws than anything else in the game. What was he doing? I would lose my mind. Thank God I did not tail others who were on Maryland last night, and they lost the game like that. Other people reached out and said there's no way they were going to lose. Had it gone overtime, that's easier said than done. But that kind of crap there's no place for that. Yeah. I hate that.
I can't believe the kid makes it, though, as well.
Well, I understand that part, yeah.
How about it doesn't even come close to the total? I mean, that started right when we were getting off the air. And you said look at the in-play over, or at least would you consider that? And it was, because the total was 150. And a lot like Michigan, Nebraska as well. So another huge win for Sparty and a tough one for Maryland. And you're right, what's the kid thinking? Are we done with Wake Forest now? You can't lose a game like that. Get Wake off the bubble. Yeah. Again, some of these teams, and they lose at home as a big favorite to Virginia, and an excellent job by BYU. Man, are they hot. In a bad spot, they go to Tempe and take out Arizona State. They score 90-plus points again. Right. And they're in position where they could run the table. And now who knows? They could go from in a span of 2 weeks from last four into like a 5 or 6 seed.
That's where
if they
I'm
keep
at,
this
right?
up.
Like some of these teams now, the way it's trending, like the bracket matrix, which they combine 115 different bracketologists with their seeding projections, right? As of this morning, I don't think most of them are updated, but Texas A&M's on the 2 line. Well, that's not going to happen. How is Texas A&M going to be a 2 seed at this point?
Another tough loss,
They've lost 3 straight. Mm-hmm. They close at Florida, Auburn, at LSU. They're 20th in net. They're 6-6 in quad 1. They're not going to be a 2 seed. Meanwhile, like BYU, they've recently been on the 8-9 line. You might be right, Paul. Their seed ceiling might be in the 4-5 range. Like if they were to somehow run the table in the regular season, then make the Big 12 title game, they're going to be as hot as any team in the country, man. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you another one. St. John's creeped up on the 3 line, and their average seed position is 3.46 per every bracketologist that does this. So they finish with Seton Hall at home and at Marquette. They are 17th in net, unfortunately for them, and 3-4 in quad 1. That does not reek of a team that could land on a 2 line, but would it be possible if they were to beat those 2 teams, then win the Big East championship, and then they have a bunch of these other teams lose multiple games in front of them?
Yeah. I hope they don't do this, but everyone talks about the eye test, and it goes back to college football, and I hate it. But if the committee will use that, and Dallin Cuff mentioned it yesterday, certainly Drake passes the eye test. Indiana State last year should have been in. But when you evaluate these teams from power conferences, and especially St. John's as well, you have a good win, but you also have horrible losses. And how will they manage that and look at that from a seeding standpoint, or last 4 in, first 4 out? And definitely St. John's could be a 2 or a 3 that they pass the eye test, considering what their record is, how they've hammered good opponents, how they're playing right now, right. And they blew some of their games that they lost. So I hate that they say that, but again, if you're going to use that in that room, what happens as well? And also Cuff mentioned, this wasn't even on my radar, they won last night, but SMU's accomplished nothing. There's nothing on that resume either.
They have no meat on the
bone.
bone.
So it's absolutely. So this is going to be a bizarre selection Sunday and how this is going to play out. And from a seeding standpoint, too, you're right, because all these SEC teams are going to play one another. And then you also got teams struggling down the stretch like A&M and others. And then Vandy gets the big win. And so it's going to be fascinating to watch in the next week and a half.
I think Duke is a really, really good basketball team. The numbers tell you that they might be the best team in the entire country. And they are locked into a 1 seed, according to those who do this. They're 6-3 in quad 1 games. Uh-huh. Houston is 3rd in the net. They have 1 more win in quad 1, and the Big 12 is, simply put, much better than the ACC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think if Duke lands a 1 seed, which, again, they're going to deserve it because they're blowing all these teams out, but they do get the benefit of the doubt a lot. That's just historically speaking. That's happened for as long as I've been alive. Houston should probably also, if they run the table, be on the 1 line, and I would take them. Sorry, that means that an SEC team is going to be out. But I don't think that you can deny Houston a 1 seed if they do not have another loss from now until Selection Sunday. I don't know how you do that.
Yep. It's a good league. 8-9 teams getting in, absolutely.
I was surprised by this. Florida has only played 9 quad 1 games. 9. They're 5-4. Some of these other SEC teams, Auburn's played 17. They've won 15 of them. Bama's played 15. They've won 10. Kentucky has played 17 quad 1 games. They have 8 losses, but that also means that they have 9 wins. They're also 14th in net. So Florida has played some of the lower competition, to date anyway, in the SEC.
What a performance by Auburn. That was fantastic. That blew my mind that they just toyed with Ole Miss the whole game. And anytime they want a basket, just go down low and it's stealing. Also, I found it interesting. For multiple segments, they had Barkley on the broadcast. Obviously, the Auburn connection. He says, we must do a better job giving the smaller schools a chance to compete. All right. Immediately changed the subject.
Did they really?
Ravitch. Yep. They also went on for 5 minutes about Buc-ee's, too. which is fast. We'll get to later as well.
He went on a rant about the Buc-ee's gas station /
He's never. They said I go all the time. I've never been inside. They said why? He goes, the one here in Auburn is crazy. There's always 100 people there. He goes, I go and pump my gas, but I want to go in. It's always a zoo.
It's one of the ultimate. It's like bigger than the Mall of America. I guess.
I know. 100 gas pumps, whatever. Everyone out there knows more than I do. I've never been there, but I just look at the pictures and on the website. 100 gas pumps. The food's supposed to be great. It's huge inside. All the souvenirs, whatever. He goes, I've never been inside. Every time I pull up, there's 100 people there.
I have to be honest. I'm pretty fascinated by it.
I am too.
Yeah,
I got to go now. Based on the word of mouth and just how can this possibly live up to the hype?
Well, there's no way. I mean, again, you would basically, because there isn't one close to Las Vegas. You would almost have to plan like a mini vacation around Buc-ee's to go and check out a gas station.
Well, I'll do it.
Oh, that you would.
I'm sold, right?
Forget going to Mexico or Hawaii. Yeah, you'll go to Buc-ee's.
It's one of the great mysteries in life, though. How can it be this popular? What's there that's so good?
Well, people say the food that they make, like the beef jerky, I guess, phenomenal. Like,
are you waiting 2 hours for a chicken sandwich?
Well, I doubt it because I'm going to guess that it's pretty efficient.
Well,
right? How would it not be?
I don't know if there's 100, 150 people in there.
Yeah, but have you seen how big it is?
Yeah, you're right about that.
It's bigger than the MGM Grand.
Yeah, all right. I thought that was awesome. He goes, we put one here down the street. People love it. I go all the time, but I've never been inside because there's so many damn people.
On that note, Broom's higher than $3 now to win the Win Award.
Yep. How about that movement? That's crazy. All right. Great job, Adam Burke. MLB betting guides out. Picks, Cy Young Awards, MVP, win totals, team previews, advanced metrics, sharp betting angles, your ultimate playbook for the season. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today. $9.99. Get your copy of the guide. Everything that's up there every single day. College hoops picks, Wes Reynolds with golf, Nigel with soccer, vsin.com/subscribe, NBA prop analyzer, vsin.com/subscribe.
Tonight's a tough test for the Lakers at home. I do have a bet on the game. Tell you about that. And how many points do you need to bet the Titanic? It's Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Wild times we live in, man. A lot to get into right now with David Purdom. Does a great job covering gambling at ESPN, ESPN.com. He joins us now on the Progressive guest line. David, good afternoon today. Thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you guys?
Doing really well.
Good, sir.
I loved the lead paragraph of one of your stories this week so much. I want to read it to the audience here, and then you can follow up with what happened next. But here's how your story started, one of them anyway, on ESPN.com this week. On a chilly Wednesday evening in Atlantic City, New Jersey, 4 bettors sat in a restaurant booth inside a casino on the boardwalk. Their table full of fried food and fountain drinks. It was not Matt Humans. March Madness was tipping off, but that's not why they were there. Their plan was to bet on a fixed NBA game. That's hook, line, and sinker right there. Tell the audience. There's a lot to the story, obviously, but then it involves Jontay Porter. What happened next?
Yeah, that was the Jontay Porter scene in Atlantic City when the co-conspirators met up there at a casino on the boardwalk, and they had a bag of $65,000 in cash with them. And this is all according to the federal documents that are in the court public purview. And their plan was to go bet on the March 22nd Sacramento Kings Toronto Raptors game. Porter had told them that he was going to remove himself from the game early and that they should hit the unders heavy. At the time when those guys are sitting there at the restaurant table, one of the guys decides to pull out his phone and actually takes a selfie. Got the guys in the background eating their food. He's kind of smiling wryly at his phone, and the feds got a hold of that picture, and it's inside the complaint. It is remarkable to me. You guys all went for a guy's trip to Atlantic City. Maybe you take a selfie, but if you're there to bet on a fixed game or a fixed player, don't take the selfie.
Incredible. It's but oh man. So now is Porter looking at 4 years in prison?
Yeah, he has pleaded guilty. He was among the first of the conspirators to plead guilty. He's looking at about 4 years in prison from what the prosecutors are estimating. little less if they get to get he's cooperating. But that sentencing is going to happen in mid-May.
So what about the other individuals? And also, is it 9 games? Is it more? They didn't stop at Porter. Did they have their hands in the cookie jar with other college programs?
So there are 5 guys that have been, 4 guys that have been named, and 1 co-conspirator that has not been named. 2 of those guys have pled guilty already. 2 of those guys are in plea negotiations, and then you have Porter. The 5th guy is a guy named Shane Hennon, and last time I was on the show, we talked about him getting arrested in the Las Vegas airport while he was trying to get out of town. The feds say they have evidence that he has been part of millions of dollars worth of fraudulent sports bets on games, and he is a known poker player, sports bettor in Vegas. He has a Pittsburgh, Philadelphia background where he was betting large amounts over there, according to Sports Illustrated reporting, betting large amounts at the Bet Rivers Casino there in Pittsburgh for quite a while. In fact, the sportsbook director over there told Sports Illustrated, your guy's friend Pat Forty does a great job, that Shane Hennon was their biggest bettor for the longest time. And my reporting shows that some of the sports books, both offshore and Las Vegas, are familiar with Hennon. They knew who he was and some of his partners and some of the betting accounts associated with him. Well, those betting accounts had been betting on some of those suspicious games involving college basketball that we've talked about dating back to last season with Temple UAB, all the way through this year. We've had 4 more schools be named under investigation: North Carolina A&T, Eastern Michigan, Mississippi Valley State, and then just yesterday, the University of New Orleans.
It's also interesting to note that it appears they went after some of the worst teams in college basketball, as to not, people would say, no, they wouldn't sound the alarms. I'm just betting against them because they're like 5-23 or one of the worst teams.
Yeah, the teams that they've targeted are those lower mid-major teams, real small schools, but it shows that they just weren't betting against bad teams because of the numbers that they were betting. As you guys know, some of these bets were placed on the first half point spread in games that would close. The first half point spread would close almost higher than the full game point spread, and they just kept betting it and betting it, and that's one of those red flags that when bookmakers see that, they think something's up here.
So I would assume then, based on what you said about Shane, obviously their biggest bettor that they reported, over the years anyway, he was allowed to get down maybe much bigger limits than normal bettors, obviously. But how much are they going to give him on a first half bet that involves some of these teams that we're talking about here?
Well, I mean, I think that they, limits vary where they go, but it certainly wasn't just betting at one sports book.
Sure.
He had accounts offshore in Vegas, probably across the nation, where he had the ability to move large amounts of money. May have been only 5,000 here, 5,000 there, but he was able to get down enough money to make it worthwhile for him, right, to do that.
I can't believe some books.
Allegedly, I should say.
Sorry, yeah. Some of them he showed the slips, though. I can't believe a guy's getting down 60,000 on a Big South game or 70,000 on a first half. I can't believe that. That's nuts to me.
That's remarkable to me, too. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe he was playing in part of the, in the pits, playing on some table games and had racked up some VIP points where they would allow him to place larger wagers than most people would be allowed to. But that was surprising to me as well.
Yeah. Is Fresno State separate from this?
Yes, Fresno State, our understanding, 3 players one was booted off the team. 2 players were held out last week against Air Force. There is an NCAA investigation over there and an internal investigation. And our understanding is that's based on player props, that some of those players that have been suspended and removed from the team were actually betting on player props involving themselves and their own games.
So how does that work then? It's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Explain this. Our guest is David Purdom, does a great job covering sports betting for ESPN. There is no legal sports betting. I can, probably put 2 and 2 together here, but no legal sports betting in the state of California. Were these players getting down with bookies, offshore books? Were they telling people to go bet it in other states? What were they doing?
my understanding is that the players were playing on daily fantasy sites that offer prop betting, kind of a similar aspect of prop betting, where you can bet more or less on a player, rebounds and points. Additionally, into some traditional sports books from associates that were named, there was an increase in interest, of notable interest at some of the major offshore sports books on these guys' prop bets. These are, guys I had never heard of, but Fresno State mid-tier players. Suddenly, their prop bets were getting more money than usual, and so that kind of triggered some suspicion.
Are we going to get to the point, David, somewhere down the line where either books do not offer player props anymore in college games, or they only offer like overs on the player prop? So if you want to bet on a player prop like any Fresno State game, for example, which is just insane that you would offer some of these players, but you can only go like over 8.5, for example. There are no unders available.
Well, that's what happened in the NBA, right? When after the Jonte Porter, their reaction was any guys on two-way contracts coming up playing halfway in G League, halfway in the NBA, you're not going to be allowed to bet under on their points, rebounds, their props. NCAA certainly wants all props on college players to be eliminated. Several states have gone that far, and it is kind of head-scratching. Like, why are we offering prop betting on these kids that nobody's ever heard of? And it just doesn't make a lot of sense. It almost feels like it's almost incentivizing some sort of corruption.
Incredible reporting. Great to talk to you. Appreciate the time, and a great job when you had Shane getting arrested at the airport a while back as well.
Thank you, guys. I always enjoy visiting with you.
Thanks, David.
Wow.
What a week.
Yes. He bet $155,000 on a first half. I went to the Instagram. Sugar Shane wins. There's $300,000 bet on Duke. He's betting Big South games for like $70,000. He's an alleged poker.
That's one at a time.
Yeah.
So not even spreading around. Just one book taking $70,000 on Big South.
There's $155,000 first half bet. Alleged poker cheat. Selling coke outside of a Wendy's. DUIs. Bomb threats. Got arrested at the airport. Where are you going with $10,000? Columbia. Dental work. The UAB Temple game opened 2.5, closed 8. Temple lost by 28. The other thing, like Pat Forty, incredible job as well. Pat Forty, Sports Illustrated. This could be a lot more programs because they don't have to give a reason why a guy's kicked off the team. New Orleans, 4 guys gone. What's going on in Fresno? Like, sure. Okay, he's out, so kicked off the team, gone, whatever. Like, if you don't do digging, you don't know. And if you put two, it could have happened earlier in the season. Could have. Okay, well, he was up to shenanigans.
Yeah, and this is why I said before David even popped on, this is why legal sports betting's a good thing, right? They're catching this stuff for the most part anyway.
Yeah, what was going on with the first halves, and crazy, right? That these guys were able, forget about Porter, it extended to college, Eastern Michigan, Temple, Mississippi Valley State, and the list goes on. A&T.
Wild, man. Win-lose up next. Gene Hackman passed away. One of the best actors ever. My favorite sports movie of all time. We'll discuss that coming up here on VSiN.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Busy hour on tap. Bottom of the hour, our weekly look at the best and the worst ATS teams in the NBA and college basketball with totals as well. Our best bets in pocket plays to close up shop here, beginning the hour with a longtime sports writer in Philadelphia, Ed Barkowitz, who is no longer a full-time sports writer, but he's also covered sports betting for a long, long time, and he has been teaching a class at Rowan University in that great area for a couple of years now in studio. He's in Vegas this week. Good to finally meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. Certainly big fans of you guys. How's the transition been from the mornings to the afternoon? Is life quality up high?
Yes.
What do you think, Paul?
Big time.
Yeah.
Yes, good for you.
The 2 a.m. wake-up call. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, good for you.
So thank goodness. Do you, first of all, do you miss covering sports betting in Philadelphia full time?
Well, a little bit, sure. You miss the camaraderie of being in the press box and having to rip up your story when the Flyers blow a 3-game lead in the last 5 minutes and all the mayhem that comes with that.
Yeah,
I don't miss that.
Yeah.
But you sometimes get to know the players a little bit, and that's always fun. And you have some stories that certainly can't tell necessarily, but they're interesting people beyond what they do on the court. And I miss some of that relationship with the guys.
So you started teaching, you went from that and then, covering sports betting as well, and then into teaching a class of sports betting at Rowan University. This was a trial basis a couple of years ago?
Yeah, it felt like maybe it was a little bit of a probationary type of thing. And to be very clear, I'm not a sharp sports bettor. I'm not a professional guy. In fact, I took Campbell, when you guys were talking about UNC Campbell, Wilmington and Campbell at 3, and that line then went to 3.5. So they saw my money and said, yeah, okay, let's bump this number up. But anyway, the class, the sports betting class, is teaching journalism students, the finer points of covering sports betting, so that when we get a note that there's something goofy happening in a Temple UAB game, or if Jonte Porter is in hot water, or if Shohei Ohtani's interpreter is doing something. Well, this is giving them the skills that David Purdom has, and Patrick Everson and Ben Fawkes, those type of guys. When you find out this information, what do you do with it next? And that's a focus of this. And the first half of the semester is basically beating the parlay out of them. They glorify the parlay. Everybody wants 18 parlays. They want, the life-changing money.
Oh, so they come into class with that attitude.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The kids think that it's just going to be, hey, he's giving out winners. It's not the case. And then when we teach, the first thing I teach is, minus 110. And when the difference between a book having minus 117 and minus 110, and why that could be predatory. And those finer points, and they understand they come in understanding what an over and under is, and I'd like to think they leave knowing who Billy Walters is.
Oh, very nice. Well said. But this is also a really good sign for you, and I think the students in the school overall, and I think maybe the country or others, because it turned in from like a 2-year trial run into full-time curriculum now.
Yeah, it's on Rowan's full-time curriculum starting in the fall, I guess, which is when I teach. I don't teach in the spring. There's just too much going on in life. And frankly, you get more engagement. There's more to talk about in the fall for obvious reasons. So it is the kind of thing that I think, frankly, is needed. Guys talked about the sports betting scandals in the colleges, and that's where those things originate. Kids at Eastern Michigan or Fresno State or those type of things, and the vulnerability there. And I think teaching kids about sports betting as early as you can and how dangerous it can be. I mean, we love it because we have a handle on it, but we're not 19 years old.
Well said again.
Yeah. And what do you teach? Great timing also. What do you teach your students? Because 40 did a great job nailing this at Sports Illustrated and tracking down Sugar Shane Wins and the character who was arrested and his history, the track record, and all the bets and the line movement. And I also told them, go to vsin.com or Wager Talk, and you can see what the line opened at and when it closed at and such. But what would you see how do you get this information once it's out there and try to put this and piece it together and do some journalism?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And the thing I preach is you got to get out there. Put yourself out there. Go to conferences like Bet Bash. Go to the SBCs. Find ways to be in front of people who are making decisions. The Tom Gables of the world in Atlantic City. Certainly Ed Salmon's out here. Find ways to not ingratiate yourself. It's not like a poor thing. It's let them know. Be in front of them. Work. It's like any other beat, and learn. And read and follow Dave Purdom and you guys and VSiN and John Tobel and all those type of things to understand how sports betting has become what it is.
Do you know how many other universities across the country are doing something similar?
A few. I know that there's another one at a college in New Jersey, and it's escaping me. And I've actually thought about putting something together to help these schools and help teach kids. I think Dave Purdom earlier mentioned the idea of there being player props on college players. I couldn't agree with him more. There doesn't need to be that. Keep the player props into the professionals. Betting an Eastern Michigan kid to score 4.5, well, probably 14.5. Go bet on Sidney Crosby to get 2 assists. There's so many other things out there. It doesn't need to be.
I would say this too. You're exactly like some of these lower or fringe schools, like the Fresno States of the world. They're not, and they're like Mountain West is actually a pretty decent conference, but even like way below that, yes, there's no reason to have those up. If you want to put up like college basketball props in the Final Four, right? Those kids aren't going to be tanking. If you want to put them up in the college football playoff, well, they're going to try to win a national title. I would say then it's probably okay. Would you agree with that, or wipe them out all?
No,
altogether?
I think you just take the complication out. Frankly, I mean, it's the market wasn't ready for that. We're it's been described to me that in sports betting we're like in the bottom of the first inning here in the United States. Mm-hmm. I think there needs to be more education as it relates to not only the kids who are playing but the kids who are betting. And they need to understand, one of the funny things, and it's not funny, but in Dave Purdum's story and his lead, which Mitch, you talked to him about, was, they're sitting around eating burgers and fries and taking pictures of each other. One of the lessons that we have in the sports betting class is the Alabama baseball scandal.
Yes.
That is the most egregious thing that I've come across.
Good for you.
Where the bad guy, Bert Neff, is in Great American Ballpark trying to put a bet against Alabama, put on LSU. Paul Skeens was pitching that day for LSU, by the way, and says to the sportsbook operator, "You can't believe what I have. Give me a mint on Alabama on LSU baseball." No, they're going to flag that. They're going to see that. They're taking screenshots of his phone that he's been in touch with the Alabama coach, and the Alabama coach who was making $500,000 loses his job.
He's yelling, "I have inside information."
Yeah.
To everybody. That's nuts.
That's where I think the education needs to be, not to help facilitate nefarious play, but to understand that sports books are watching this stuff. You're going to get caught.
Just don't be a dummy.
Well, that too.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's as bad as it gets. You're right. You called it egregious. I mean, Paul, we've said that many times. The guy is at the counter telling the people behind the book, "I got inside information here." How do you think they're going to respond?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like telling a blackjack dealer, "I know the next 5 cards."
I've been counting for a while, pal. I know what's coming up.
The other one is they walk up to the counter, think they can bet whatever, and don't care what the number is, and don't know anything about juice, $1.10, all of that.
Right.
And and I know Robert Walker has talked about that. I think it was Toledo football, whatever. But the guy's sitting there and, okay, I'm going to move it to 12. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to bet it again. Move it to 13. And the guy keeps betting. He goes, it's a 3-point difference across the street. And the guy doesn't care what the number is, and he continues to bet it for whatever he can. Yeah. I mean, that some of the stuff is lunacy.
Sure. So, I mean, that story, though, with that selfie that they took sitting down in Atlantic City, you've probably been to that spot a lot. Right, because you probably don't live that far from there.
Yeah, no, in Atlantic City probably more often than I should. I mean, I think that one of the great things about Vegas, living in Philadelphia, is that it is 2,500 miles away from us, so you can't get here every weekend. Mm-hmm. But there's plenty of action to be had in Atlantic City, and I will say this: in New Jersey, there are a lot more betting options. There's a lot more markets than there are in Las Vegas and even Nevada. Last night, Sixers and Knicks. I wanted to get down on that game, and it had already started. I'm like, okay, well, how about in-game? And we were over at the Fontainebleau. And the guy said, nah, we're not offering in-game at this point at the Fontainebleau. Some places do offer in-game. We were hammering the Bulls against the Sixers a couple nights ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
good move.
But so that's, there are more options in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. They're not necessarily great options as far as odds and the sharp guys, but there definitely are more options.
Yeah. How many books are actually in New Jersey right now? Do you know?
It was about 18 or so. There's
that's more than us.
Each casino gets, my understanding, gets 3 skins where they can farm out their sports betting license.
I will say this. We're starting to get that national influence at a couple of books here in Las Vegas. The horror stories that you heard about from like Spanky Right Away, and others are like, you're taking $8 on a bet. What are you doing here? Yeah, that's now happening in Las Vegas.
Is that right?
Oh, it happens. I'm up to my. I'm almost ready to tap out at least one book.
Wow, and that's a thing that we ended the semester with. Toward the end of the semester was the Massachusetts stuff and how their regulators are starting to get interested in how DraftKings is just seemingly banning people for winning, and their executives don't necessarily hide that fact.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was Massachusetts, and I think I saw one
Washington.
There you go. Yeah, that's good, right?
I think so.
At least, and so that should be like the future of sports betting too. Right on the app, it tells you this is how much you can get down.
Yeah.
All right. None of this bull crap about it spins and spins and spins. Send to a trader. Hey, do you want 19 cents on it? No, thank you.
And
I'll
they move
pass.
the odds.
And then
they move
on
the
you.
odds. Yep. We've all had that.
Yep. More with Ed Barkowitz coming up next. The Philly sports scene. 76ers were 1-10 in February. What's the short term? What's the long term with this team as well?
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We continue here with Ed Barkowitz in studio. He covered Philadelphia sports for a long time, then got into covering sports betting, now teaches a class at Rowan University, and it's really cool to hear that it was on a 2-year trial basis, but then after this year turned into a full-time curriculum at the university. He's in studio here with us today. We were talking about this during the break. The stories of like Michael Jordan going and playing at AC. Right? He had to get his blackjack fix in. Paulie reminded us of when we were at Foxwoods. Kendrick Perkins came on and said, oh, yeah, man, my Celtics teammates and I, specifically him and maybe like one other player, they would make the drive to Foxwoods and spend a lot of time there playing blackjack. Do you still get those stories today, like modern-day players going? A lot of major American cities in that neighborhood that you can get there probably within an hour or two.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the guys still go to the casinos in Atlantic City as much as they used to, because there is other ways to wager. But I remember having a conversation real quick with Allen Iverson a couple of years ago. I said, how much better is your life that there is not a casino within walking distance of the Wells Fargo when you played? Because there is one now.
Oh.
You can walk from Live Casino to the Wells Fargo Center. It's 6 blocks. He said I would have lived there.
Really?
He enjoyed playing. But that was obviously he played before the expansion of gambling, certainly sports betting, but casinos coming into Philadelphia. Back when he was playing, you would have had to go to Atlantic City or the Poconos or somewhere like that. But yeah, there's certainly plenty of stories of the fellas missing practice the next day. I mean, that's one of the reasons morning shoot-arounds and morning skates exist, is to make sure that you're not still out from the night before. Yeah. And some of those were tested.
I think it was Chandler Parsons on a recent podcast that he does. He said 100% of the time in the NBA, when you see illness or flu-like symptoms, he said 100% of the time it means they're hungover.
Yeah. Allen had a lot of flu. He had. I'm kidding. But that makes sense. I mean, these are guys with more money than they know what to do with, and time, frankly. And it's why the schedule sometimes is set up the way it is in professionals. You get there the night before and you're out that night after the game frequently, especially in the NBA and NHL, which have so many games.
Social media has changed things. Jordan could not. It'd be a whole different ball game if there was social media when Jordan was playing.
Yeah, I mean, and they have back rooms and high roller areas, but you're right. It's one of the things that have diminished just living for some of these guys.
Well, even like Jordan going to play golf with Roenick.
Yeah,
and
I can't believe that.
Slamming what was it, 18 beers plus?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go score 40 tonight. Roenick's on the phone with his bookie. Oh, God, I got to fade Jordan tonight. And he goes off, kills him. People on the golf course would have been taking video. He would have been killed for that,
Right.
Forget it.
But we would have tried to get down on it.
Of course. So Iverson has to be, in like recent, like Philadelphia, like last 30 years or so, one of the most beloved like athletes to go through there, because he did kill it, right? And he went out there with the effort, and he would always play. Now, the juxtaposition here from him to a guy like Joel Embiid, where is he at overall with the fan base?
Yeah, it's starting to feel a little bit like an Eric Lindros situation in Philly, for me at least. The guy who came in was the savior of the franchise, took him to the finals. And obviously, Joe hasn't gotten past the second round, but the idea being is this guy, all this was predicated on Joel Embiid and the process and all that other stuff. Now they're selling tickets for $2, Sixers. You can get a ticket for $2. At least, and it was a great line by a woman who covers the Sixers for the Philadelphia Inquirer. You bought a ticket for $2 to that Chicago Bulls game on was that Monday, and you got your money's worth because they got hammered.
Down by 50.
Down by 50 at one point. Like I said, the live betting, that to me is the future of it, if it's not already here. But yeah, the Sixers, I texted with Keith Pompey, who covers another one of the Sixers beat writers. I said, nice team you got there. And he said, they are ass. I'm like, yeah. And he's got another 2 months of dragging that around.
Sure. Wow. Now, they were actually live in that game against the Knicks the other night. But moving forward here, like, what is there a betting angle? I mean, they have to get the right. Don't they have to tank the rest of the year to keep that top 6 protected pick?
You would think. I mean, yeah. I mean, Embiid, I can't see why they would win. I mean, it's what they did 5 years ago to get picks. And during this 9-game losing streak, they didn't cover 8 of them, first 8.
That's right.
And a lot of times, not even close.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do as a square is think that I know something that I don't. But if you could see body language, especially in pros, see body language, that to me is something where you raise, maybe get involved, get down on in game.
How so? What different aspects, angles?
Well,
tuning out the coach? What?
Well, some of that. Okay. The coach keeps talking about effort.
Yeah.
Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid having a little beef back in November about Embiid being late for meetings.
He called them out, right?
I mean, those type of things. And then you see defensive effort and loose balls and that kind of thing, dunks and don't really care. And just to me, there's a lot of body language. A guy gets taken out of the game, doesn't make eye contact with the coach.
Very good.
Those type of things.
You have a lot of pro teams obviously there. Do you ever go to games specifically with live betting in mind?
No. I not that I don't, but if I have the opportunity, I would for sure. But
not that you would be covering the game, but if you just went or do you never go to that? Like, I'm going to go as a fan.
Believe it or not, I haven't been to a game as a fan in the last 3 years.
Okay. But you could if you wanted to from that angle.
Yeah, I could walk down to where I live is walkable to the stadiums. But there is a restriction. If I remember right, there is a restriction on the sports betting apps when you're in game. Like there's a geolocator. From what I remember,
in the stadium,
when I was covering games, I would check out the line and there was a latency thing. I don't know if it still exists, but the geo tracker is. That's the lifeblood.
Sure, it
is. Because, like you say, Mitch, you see, Aaron Nola, throws a pitch and then all of a sudden grabs it at his back, fire away at the over for the Braves or whoever they're playing.
Sure, I will say because I don't go to very many Raiders games because it's typically going to be on a Sunday afternoon and I want to be at a book or somewhere watching all the games and betting whatever I can. The last game I think I went to live here in town. That would have been Gonzaga, UConn 2 years ago in the tournament, and there was a couple of books that I could get down on live because you could just tell it was going to turn into a blowout. And
Were you
was
ahead?
Going to kill them.
Were you ahead?
We were ahead, yeah.
Attaboy.
And we were ahead
Nice.
at the time. Yep.
Nice.
It's kind of strong.
Yeah, but it was maybe like half a possession or something like that.
See, that
helps. It's better than being 3 possessions behind watching at home on the couch.
What do you think of Field of Dreams?
I am a Field of Dreams fan. Love it. I still can't understand. There was one thing when Moonlight Graham, the showing of Moonlight Graham, they put his stats up from 1915 or whatever it was. He actually played in 1922. The stats are incorrect in that quick flash on the board.
Oh, good catch.
The nerd that I am, and when at work, I sat right behind the baseball encyclopedia. I'm like, all right, did Moonlight Graham exist? He did. But they got the year wrong. I never
how would they do that? That's really awkward.
Shoeless Joe was right-handed,
well, that's a problem, too.
That's another one. Yeah. What do you think of the people that are anti-Field of Dreams on social media?
They're weirdos. Yeah. Everybody has their taste.
How about Hoosiers?
Hoosiers is strong. Yeah, picket fence.
Picket fence, yep.
Ollie dribbled that ball off his knee. I still feel bad for him.
Yeah. How about, what do you think of Fountain Blue? I was just there. I thought it was awesome.
Strong. We ate, I would recommend Don's Restaurant.
Okay.
John, the GM there, came over, took good care of us. We flipped him an Eagles shirt because he was all over the Eagles in the Super Bowl. He's not a Philadelphia guy, but he kept going on and on about the props. You know how? So he was excited about that. But Fountain Blue is really strong.
Best cheesesteak in Philadelphia.
John's Roast Pork, Wecco and Snyder. It's a little shack that won a Beard Award for its cheesesteak.
Really?
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so it's well known there, obviously.
It is.
Do tourists know about it?
When you guys come, you'll call me and we'll go there. Occasionally, you know, it's right next to the shopping center I go to, the Acme there.
Okay.
And you'll see, you know, people with different jackets, you know, Packers, especially when somebody's in town. So it's not as known as Pat's and Geno's because that's on, you know, every broadcast, national broadcast in Philadelphia. But John's Roast Pork, even though it's John's Roast Pork, they have the best cheesesteaks.
Wow. Okay. Tony Luke's?
They're top 10-ish.
Top 10? How many spots are there?
Was Gino Pat's?
They're mid. They're mid? No, I mean, I got... Nah.
Top 10? That's it.
10-ish. I mean, there's D'Alessandro's. I mean, I don't want to bore people because they don't know these places.
Yeah.
But Gooey Louie's is a place that's...
I'm in. I like the name.
It's in a little strip mall. It's been there for 50 years.
Really?
They put up... we get a steak, the three of us would split it. That's how big it is.
Oh, my God.
It's
really?
about $15. Not terrible.
Oh, okay. That's really good. That's manageable. The last time out, it's been a minute, but the restaurants downtown were amazing. I had spectacular pizza. Is it a good pizza town?
No, it's not.
Oh,
no, it's not.
interesting.
There's
Okay.
one or two places. I'm not much of a pizza guy, certainly like you guys. No, but I got all the Italian places for you. All the Italian places, including places in my neighborhood. We were talking off air where a lot of the Fox guys go, a lot of the Eagles guys go, and it's a BYOB, which cuts down the number, and it's fantastic.
Great to meet you, Ed. Thanks for the
Yeah,
time.
for sure.
Really cool coming in studio. Top bottom coming up next. Best and worst teams in the NBA and college basketball against the spread.